Welcome back. I can't believe we're already at the end of another month and having to do a reading wrap up, but here we are. This is going to be my January reading wrap up. I'm going to talk about all the books I read, what I'm currently reading, what I plan to read next month, all the books I collected throughout the month of January, and just everything January related as far as my reading goes. So let's dive right into it. I am going to start first and foremost with a little bookish haul. I picked up a couple of books at the thrift store this month, and I also received a little bit of book mail, so let's talk about those. First up, I have Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This is the first book in the Knock 'Em Out series. I read this book a couple of years ago. I thought it was a really fun, cutesy, ridiculous little time, and now I finally own the physical copy of it. The second book is All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. If you are unfamiliar with who Ashley Flowers is, she is one of the hosts of the podcast Crime Junkie, which is a true crime podcast. And I have been really curious about Ashley Flowers' book for quite a while. So finding this in the thrift store was really, really exciting. I can't wait to get to this. For me, a thriller is one of my favorite palate cleansers or slump busters because you just fly through them because you need to know what happens. And last, I got Forever Wild by K.A. Tucker. This is a novella in the Simple Wild series. I have not read it, but I do own a couple of the books in it and eventually plan on getting to it. So picking up the novella just seemed like a good idea. Now on to the book mail I received. From Source Books, I received Audrey Lane Stirs the Pot by Alexis Hall. I am really excited about this one. It looks really cute. It sort of gives the vibes of Red, White, and Royal Blue meets The Great British Bake Off, both of which super appeal to me. I really love Alexis Hall's writing. Boyfriend Material is one of my favorite books. It's just such a good little romance with some really fun banter, and I'm hoping that this sapphic romance kind of gives similar vibes, but obviously in its own lane. I'm really excited about this one. I think it's going to be a really fun read. And the other book mail that I just received this a couple days ago, and I'm actually really excited about it. This is a nonfiction read called You Didn't Hear This From Me by Kelsey McKinney. And this is a book about history on gossip. I love to have a good gab with my best friends, so this book seems right up my alley, and I am trying to read a little bit more nonfiction this year that's not just celebrity memoirs, so this might be a good sort of jumping off point for my nonfiction goals. I'm really excited about this. Thank you so much to Hatchet Book Group who sent me this, and let's dive into the rest of the wrap up. So I think I'm going to start with talking about the arcs I read this month. Now, I did receive 6 e-arcs this month. I only finished 3 of them. One of them I actually finished yesterday, which was February 1st, so I'm not going to talk about it in this wrap-up, other than to say that I'm currently reading it. But I read Playing for Keeps by Alexandra Belflor. This is a sapphic romance about 2 agents, a sports agent and a music agent, whose clients start dating. Their clients are very reminiscent of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Half the book is about their love story. The main plot of the book is about Piper and Poppy, who are falling in love while their clients fall in love, and there's a lot of red tape that goes with that. This was a really sweet little romance, but definitely dove into some deeper issues that I really appreciated. I actually received the audiobook arc, and I thought the narrator did a stunning job. I had a really good time listening, and I rated this 4 stars. The second arc I read this month, I received from Penguin Teen Canada, and it's called Room to Breathe by Casey West. This features a young girl who is kind of going through it in her life. It's a coming-of-age story about losing her friendships, losing her sense of self. Her family is in a bit of turmoil, and she's having to deal with all of this at the same time. And after losing her friend group for months, one night she gets stuck in a bathroom at the school overnight with her ex-best friend, who she also kind of maybe has feelings for, and they have to deal with that. I really like this one. I thought this was a cute little story. Again, this is a YA book, so for me, it just felt very YA, which is not a bad thing. It is a YA book. I would recommend this for a younger audience. I had a good time. I rated it 3.5 stars only because there was a couple little details in the plot that I felt like didn't get tied up at the end. It was overall a pretty decent read. Moving on from arcs, I just want to quickly touch on the books that I DNF'd, and I actually only DNF'd 1 this month, and it was very sad to say Game Changer by Rachel Reed. I made a whole video talking about why I DNF'd this book. I was super super disappointed. I had really high hopes going into this. I specifically waited to watch the show until after I read Game Changers and Heated Rivalry, but I simply could not get through Game Changer. I just thought it was so poorly written and didn't really dive into any character development whatsoever. And eventually I just had to put it down. And that was disappointing. But again, made a whole video about it. If you want to listen to me rant for 20 minutes, I'll link it in the description. I think I'll go through my current reads because all of these I started in January but haven't finished. So let's quickly talk about them. The first is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This is about a summer camp that is run by some really wealthy people, and one day the owner's daughter goes missing, and this mirrors something that happened many years ago where their son went missing. I am very early into this book but really enjoying it. I'm hoping that in the month of February I'll get through it and be able to finish it. I actually started this back in December and have just been going through it very slowly. It's called Mouthful of Birds. It's by Samantha Schweblin, and it's a collection of short stories. So I've read a couple of them. I really enjoy Samantha Schweblin's writing. Very horror elements, very eerie, very weird, and honestly a good time. I will hopefully get through this in the month of February, but I'm not in a super big rush to finish this at all. I also started Complicated Heart by Ashley Jade. I've owned this book for a while. I picked it up at the thrift store about a year ago, and honestly I haven't had that much motivation to get into it, but I was browsing through Spotify the other day trying to find an audiobook because I just needed something to listen to while I was cleaning, and Teddy Hamilton, of course, is the GOAT, so I was looking through books that Teddy Hamilton narrated, and this was one of them, and I thought, well, if I can start the audiobook of it, I could finish reading my physical copy. So I started it. I actually am enjoying it so far. This is sort of an MFM type of romance, so I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I think I have an idea, but I'm enjoying it so far. It's very smutty, a little bit more smutty than I might normally gravitate towards. It's an easy read, and hopefully I'll finish it in February. I am trying to read books by Black authors every single day during the month of February, and I'm also trying to get through the arcs that I've been sent by publishers. This book comes out on March 10th, and it's called The Freeverse Society by Delali Adjorna. It's about two young people who join a poetry club. They come from very different life circumstances, but both are really struggling with their identity and with their place in the world, and they've been forced to work together to plan an event for the Freeverse Society. I love books that incorporate poetry and other mediums of storytelling into this, and this is one of those. As you can see, I've been having a good time tabbing it. I'm about halfway through, really loving this, but there is quite a few gut punches in here that have really made me emotional, and yeah, I'm having a good time reading this. I'll probably finish this today or tomorrow. So in total, I only read 5 books this month. 2 of them were the arcs that I've mentioned earlier, Playing for Keeps and Room to Breathe, and the other 3 were books that I really enjoyed. 2 of them I wasn't planning on reading at all this month. It just kind of got away from me. But let's start with Heated Rivalry, which is the second book in the Game Changer series by Rachel Reed. If you don't know what Heated Rivalry is, I fear you've been living under a rock, but it is essentially an MM romance about 2 rival hockey players who slowly, over the course of many years, fall in love. It's very spicy, it's very heartfelt, and the TV show has pretty much taken over the world. I wanted to read the book before I watched the TV show, so I indeed did do that. As I said earlier, I did not finish Game Changers. I did not really enjoy it. However, Heated Rivalry felt like it was written by a completely different author. I think it's very indicative of Rachel Reed's debut novel being so vastly different than the second novel she wrote. I love Heated Rivalry. Yes, very spicy. And if you do not like MM spice, this isn't going to be a book for you. However, I felt so connected to these characters. You could really feel the journey they were going on. And it only made it so much better when I went and watched the TV show. The TV show is so well done. It stays so true to the book, but adds something different than what's in the book. And also, I will say, the TV show's portrayal of Kip and Scott from the first book totally blew me away to the point where now I almost want to go back and reread Game Changer and maybe give it a second chance having watched the show, which I can't believe the show did that for me, but we'll see if that actually happens. I am very scared to go back to that book because I did not like it at all, but great show. And Heated Rivalry is a great book. I gave it 4.5 stars. The other book that I did not plan on reading at all was The Husband Hoax by Saxon James. After Heated Rivalry, I felt like I was going to be in the slump, and I just needed something to get me right out of that. So I went to one of my favorite MM authors, Saxon James. She writes kind of ridiculous stories. I read a few books by her, especially this Puck Boys series. Absolutely ridiculous. But I actually felt The Husband Hoax was a lot better than some of the other books that I've read by Saxon James. Yes, there is barely ever a woman in any of their books. They're a little bit misogynistic, but they are just fun and silly and stupid. And this one was exceptionally silly and stupid. It's about a guy who gets stood up at a wedding and he really needs to impress his family. So a really hot rich guy steps in as his makeshift date. And then he decides to marry this really rich hot guy so he can get his inheritance. It was so dumb, but it was really fun. I read it in a couple of hours and don't know that I would recommend it. It's not a great book, but I had a lot of fun. I rated it 3.5 stars. And will I return to the series? Probably not. But I had fun reading it. And I saved the best for last. This is actually the first book that I read in 2026. And thank God, because it was so amazing. I read it a month ago. I'm still thinking about it now. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop talking about it. I want everyone I know to read this book. And it is, of course, The Favorites by Lane Fargo. This is a library book. I need to return it. It's pretty overdue. However, this book was phenomenal. The Favorites is about an ice dancing duo that have been skating together since they were 10 years old, and they have a very tumultuous, very enmeshed relationship with each other. So much happens between Kat and Heath in this book that I cannot even begin to express how entwined these two people are. I'm not going to lie, Heath made me so angry for the majority of the book, and yet I was rooting for him. I was rooting for him and Kat as a couple, even though he made me super angry. I just think this is a phenomenal read. If you have any interest in the sport of ice dancing whatsoever, if you ever watched Scott and Tessa, me, a Canadian, of course I did, you'll love this book. If you like books like Carrie Soto is Back or like Daisy Jones and the Six, this is very similar. It's told in the style of Daisy Jones and the Six. It has the vibes of Carrie Soto is Back, but also romantic ice dancing duo. This is so good. This is so good. I thoroughly enjoyed every single moment of this. I kind of did a bit of a tandem read. I would read and then I would listen. The audiobook of this is spectacular. There's a full cast. It's really, really great. And it's just a really, really good book. I rated it 5 stars. And I was so happy that I picked this as my first read of 2026 because it started me off on the right foot with a 5-star read. So that is the month of January for me. I just want to quickly touch on some of my February goals. I did not complete all my monthly goals for January. One of the goals I had was reading a nonfiction book every month. Didn't read any nonfiction books in the month of January. Reading a classic every month. Didn't read a classic in the month of January. I am just going to let myself not be hard on myself about it. I think that I'm trying to read for fun. I'm trying to be more intentional. I'm trying not to put an extreme amount of pressure on myself when it comes to reading. And while I still want to keep these loose goals intact and read more nonfiction and read more classics, I think that it would just be limiting to force myself to do it just to check off a box. So we'll see how February goes. I do have a couple of goals. I am trying to read a Black book every single day. Now, that doesn't mean a book a day, but I'm trying to read a book by a Black author every single day. As I said, I'm currently reading The Freeverse Society. I have a couple other books that I definitely want to get into my reading for this month. The first being Ace of Spades. This has been on my TBR for a really, really long time, and I am really excited to get to it. So I will get to it this month. I also want to pick up the Legendborn series. I am not a really big fantasy person. However, I've just heard so many good things about the Legendborn series that I genuinely think that I'm going to enjoy it. So I'm hoping to pick that up during the month of February. And then I also have a couple of arcs that I am meant to read during the month of February. So I will quickly touch on those. The first is A Practical Guide to Dating a Demon by Hannah Reynolds. This comes out on February 3rd. So this will hopefully be earlier in the month so I can get to it before it comes out. Love on Ice by Sarah Ney. This comes out February 17th. And So Old, So Young by Grant Grinder. I don't know if I wrote that down wrong. That also comes out February 17th. So these are 3 arcs that I have to read this month. And I'm really excited about it. I think this is going to be a good reading month. I'm off to a great start. And I'm really hopeful going forward about this year, about this month, and about my reading. I read 5 books in the month of January. Yes, it is not the most that I've ever read in a month. However, I read. and I read almost every single day this month, which is really cool. And that is everything I purchased, was sent, or read in the month of January. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give this video a like and consider subscribing to my channel for more bookish and cozy videos, and I will see you in the next one.